everyone. We're so excited to talk to our fellows of the last three cycles about their experiences as One Future Fellows. One Future Fellowship is a journey of building people and not just ideas, and we're so excited to share more about it with you. I am Shreya, my pronouns are she, her. I am a senior program manager at One Future Collective. I am the project lead and co-anchor of the One Future Fellowship and also a proud alumna of the program. We have with us three distinct fellows from the past three cycles of OFF respectively. Devika, a program manager at Alokit, who started her journey in the education space as a Teach for India fellow in Delhi from 2020 to 22. Since then, she's worked in Telangana's gender inclusive education with various marginalized student groups and currently works as program manager with Alokit in Hyderabad, working with government school principals to create gender inclusive schools and tries to inculcate her learnings from the One Future Fellowship into her daily interactions and work. Thank you so much for joining us today, Devika.
Thank you so much, Shreya. Very excited to be here.
We also have with us Pooja, the brand and design executive at Common Purpose, who excels in creating innovative design solutions while enhancing the brand's identity. With a background in branding and communication with social sector, she brings distinctive approach to evolving transformative brands. Pooja's insights have been further enriched by her experience as a One Future Fellow, deepening her understanding of social justice and feminist leadership, which in turn influences her personal and professional life. Beyond her primary role, she is actively engaged in projects nurturing career development, fostering inclusive leadership, and advocating for feminist communities. We're so grateful to have you with us here today, Pooja.
Thank you so much, Shreya. So glad to be here and can't wait for the further conversation for sure.
Yes, me too. Thank you. And lastly, we also have with us Shefali, Head of Operations at Young India Foundation. Shefali started her journey with oppressed communities in Kutch as a freshly graduated college student. And after experiencing the stark contrast across cultural, social, and economic ecosystems around the country, she is now studying and working as a feminist economist at the intersection of governance, gender, and youth representation. She is also the co-founder of Nijasva, which is a social enterprise empowering handloom weavers in Odisha through fair pay practices. It's a pleasure to have you with us here today, Shefali.
Thank you. I always enjoy being a part of any space created by One Future Collective. So happy to be here.
Thank you, and thank you all again for joining us. I welcome you to say One Future Fellowship 101, where we talk about the journey of our fellows and how it also looks like for the upcoming cycle of 2024 to 25. The fellowship is a feminist leadership program centered on developing knowledge of social justice, skills to action change, and capacity for personal leadership. One Future Fellowship is an intermediate level hybrid learning program incorporating a mix of classroom style learning, workshops, immersive experiences, and actionable projects. The fellowship also has 5 arcs to it. And Shefali, would you want to share with us how these arcs of the fellowship supported you with your journey?
Sure. I think the best thing about the fellowship is that each arc was unique but played really well into each other. So for our arcs, we started with building and figuring out our leadership styles, how to talk about our personal stories, negotiation, monitoring, and evaluation. And the best part of the arc was that there was a really good base of theory, examples from the real world, and then we were able to test it out ourselves with the skill practice assignments. And about skill practice assignments, one of my favorite skill practice assignments, because there is just flexibility with how you want to express yourself, it ended up becoming a project under OFC. Just because I didn't want to write an essay that day, I ended up doing a magazine, and now that is something that I hold very close to my heart. One other thing that I think complemented the arcs really well was having a mentorship program going parallelly, which just became like an extra sounding board for me during the entire fellowship. Again, it had the flexibility for what I wanted to learn, and what pace I wanted to learn at, and choose personal development. That is something that I think was very important in terms of how I was able to carry forward learnings from the fellowship, and also inculcate them into everyday life, because doing a project but also being able to practice that on an everyday basis is very difficult, I think. And so the arc structure and having different kind of sounding boards throughout the fellowship really helped. And yeah, some of the things, some of the people I've met are things that I hold very close to my heart even today.
Thank you for sharing that, Shefali. I also want to mention that the fellowship for 2024 to 25 will be administered as a single cohort. This time we're scaling to 100 participants, wherein for the first 2 hours, we have live learning theory session, followed by 2 hours of practicality of how do we do it and do skill building in real life as well. I'm also very glad to hear that you found some sort of community, and I think a big focus of the fellowship has always been on the community aspect of it. Pooja, can I invite you to elaborate on your journey with the same?
Yes, of course. And I think I would be very biased because I feel like the community aspect is the best aspect of the fellowship, because I think that's why like I truly felt connected with like while applying for the fellowship as well. And I would say I think like the work we all of us do in the sector is very, sometimes we are faced with harsh realities, and it's very important to have this community or communal support to just keep us grounded and also keep us moving in some way. And I think OFC always has my heart because it provides you that community and something that you can come back to always. I think my personal journey with like fellowship and community has been, I would say, I don't know, beautiful, fabulous, all the adjectives you want to use here. But one of the, I think I can share a couple of glimpses from like whole journey and like what the community has meant to me. As I think Shefali was mentioning earlier that, you know, we had like skills to assignments, SPAs that we used to call. And for that, like we had like buddy triads where with each arc, the buddy triad changed. But I think the first buddy triad that I had sort of is still holds like a special place in my heart, because I think we had an assignment to create a podcast episode together, and from the first day itself, like all of three of us very instantly connected, and we sort of met in a cafe very nicely and recorded a podcast, and that's something I still remember. And all of us became such a good friends that we are still connected to each other. We still help out each other. So that's like how the community and the friendships also builds through the fellowship. I would also say I think I've made a lot of friends and I have met a lot of people across different cities, different sides of the India, and like different parts and different places. I've met them, and I think it's always such a good thing to know that like wherever you go, you'll find some people that you already know, you can rely on, you can reach out to them. It's such a nice feeling to have. And one thing I want to emphasize is that the community aspect is just not till the fellowship. Of course, during the fellowship, it is very helpful for you. There are a lot of up and downs. You can just laugh together, cry together, have many discussions and conversations together. But it doesn't just stay till the end of the fellowship. I think it goes much more beyond it. I think even I know, like anytime if I want to text right now on the WhatsApp group with something I need or I'm finding some difficulties, I know I'll get quickest and most helpful response from the OFC community and like my fellow matchmates. And I think one of the important and the beautiful aspect of this community is it's such resourceful and giving community, and just everyone has decided, sort of unspoken truth is that everyone has decided to being there for each other, which is such a powerful thing. So yeah, I find the OFC community the most heartful and loving community for sure.
Thanks, Pooja. That was really warming to hear as well. I think along with the community and learning aspect of which we've already spoken about, two other components of the fellowship are also coaching and action. Devika, could I invite you to share how these two components shape your experience of One Future Fellowship?
Yes, definitely. And I think just like Pooja was biased to the community aspect, I am biased towards the action aspect, not just in the fellowship, but in general as well. I think my idea of feminism existed a lot in theory and very small actions before I started the fellowship, and I engaged with the whole process. But I think the more I sort of engaged, learned, made mistakes, failed, came back to the support system that we have at the fellowship, I think the more I kept learning about what it means to take action and what it means to, just do something and not keep thinking about it in your head. And my mentor, my coach, played a really big role in that, because some days our conversations just moved so far away from the agenda we decided. And it would just be that, okay, I'm a young professional in this space working on gender, and I have all of these people around me who are cool people, but their ideas are just so different. And how do I find common place? And on so many occasions, they just reminded me to breathe and start with one small step. So I think the fact that the fellowship is not just learning or just action or just community or just skill building, it's an amalgamation of everything you need to either continue your journey in the social justice area and in the space of feminist leadership, but it is also a first step for people like me who knew that they're feminists but did not really know what that means in the real world. And what do you know with all of that knowledge? So I think it was all of that together that creates this beautiful, strong space where sometimes you can also just be vulnerable and be your real self.
Thanks for sharing, Devika. I think skill building definitely also has been a major part of it, wherein different fellows have used skills right from communication and negotiation to fundraising to MEAL. And these practices are there across industries, right? We've had fellows who are mathematicians working with governance, working in the social sector, working in corporates. And I think that's also the beauty of it, because we have then so many diverse perspectives coming in. But while speaking of transferable skills, Pooja, would you want to share some on this? How was it for you? Did you find something? Were you not able to find what you were looking for? Would you like to share a little bit on this?
Yes, absolutely. I would say I think one of the again like really good aspect of fellowship is like you can't just there's not just a learning aspect of it, as Devika mentioned. There's this action aspect of it as well. There's a coaching aspect of this, and then there is also a skill building aspect as well. There's multiple places where you can draw different skills from. For example, I would say I also received I feel like built a lot of skills in terms of coaching while just being with my coach as well, just like having the conversation and understanding what I need and what would I need for my career and stuff. That conversation also helped me build a lot of skills. So I would say just not just one aspect is what I wanted to say. But in terms of transferable skills, I think there are, of course, as I said, a lot of skills that you can draw, as you mentioned as well. I think negotiations are something sort of helped me. It's always was something very difficult for me to do. I wouldn't say it's easiest thing for me now, but I'm definitely, in the right direction, progressing towards it being, at least being more open to it, like not finding it as difficult, which is something I found is very helpful in general to have that skill of negotiation anywhere, I would say, not just in the career, but otherwise as well. I think I would definitely say community building. I think it's something just observing how this community works sort of gives you this sort of, I would say, motivation, not just motivation, but also just like understanding of what beautiful thing community can be and like what are the ways you can build those. So I think that definitely that. Then there's a leadership approach. I mean, that's what like the fellowship also sort of is about. So of course you are building like different different approaches to leadership, being more empathetic towards everyone overall. I think that's also very important, just being empathetic towards yourself and others, because I realize like everyone in the fellowship, including the facilitator, everyone from the OFC team, has been so kind and empathetic towards like whenever you reach out to something. So I think that's sort of, you gain that understanding of how to sort of treat everyone, how to be empathetic, which is I feel is very important skill to sort of transfer to different areas of your life. Another, I think, would be one of the things I realized in SPA. We had one assignment which was talking about like what are your feminist values and how do you incorporate that in your life. And I think that paper or that SP assignment sort of helped me understanding my values and also then transfer them to different aspects of my life, like not just work but personal as well. So I think that sort of brought a lot of changes overall in terms of the way I look, what my core values are, and way I am now more strongly focusing on those and like making them a priority. So I would say, even though that's not like skill, but that's a very important thing, something transferable that came out of fellowship for me personally. And I know I'll just wrap this up quickly. I know there is also, we had like a couple of sessions on media, research, stats, with something, media is something very much used in my career. So just having the understanding and approach of like this social justice approach to it, something very much helped me in my career as well, just having like a different perspective and always thinking from a different approach while I'm working on something. Then I think researching and statistic is something not directly related to my work, but I think it did help me gaining different insights, and that's something I still carry with me. So yeah, there's a lot of different skills that you can learn, and everyone I think gains out different skills for themselves, what they need at that time. But yeah, I think these are what I gained, but I'm sure there's much more to learn from. I'm sure Devika and Shefali will also agree and have much more skills to add on. So that's my answer to a very long answer to your question, which is
I think it's helpful. So thank you for sharing, Pooja. During my time, I think we spoke about data justice, and that's also something we incorporate in every cycle, which also made me think, what does having an updated LinkedIn account mean? Because in a way, the more I share for better opportunities, the more chance of my data being leaked and sold. So what does it mean in terms of data justice if I'm also trying to look for a job and have an updated LinkedIn account? These were questions that came in. I think there was also one session with another cohort wherein everyone just spoke about how do we speak about negotiating salaries after a session on negotiation and effective communication. I'm very glad that the fellows are able to foster this community, which is also very sustained, because the fellowship also focuses on feminist leadership and everyday practices, right, along with many other experiences. Devika is a recent graduate of the One Future Fellowship. Devika, would you like to share any concluding remarks on how your experience was?
That is the most difficult answer to give in brief, because brevity is not my strong suit. But I think my experience can be summed up by saying that I learned how to adult through this fellowship. I learned how to feel. I learned how to keep fighting for change and keep working towards seeing the shifts I want to see in the world. But I also learned how to take a break for myself and how to take a step back, but keep fighting the good fight. And I think in a world today where there's just so much happening at the same time, as individuals, we have the responsibility of fighting for change, but as human beings, we also have a responsibility to ourselves, to be real with ourselves. So I think my experience was so like, it was just so vast, because I was in the middle of looking for jobs. At one point, I was in a new job. I was doing the capstones. I remember having conversations with Shreya saying, listen, everything is great. And then 3 days later, reaching out and saying, listen, I don't know what to do. So I think my experience was learning how to adult very really. I've been an adult for 4.5 years before the fellowship, but I think I truly understood what it means to just be a person sometimes through the fellowship. And I think I spoke of community and knowledge and all of that, but I think I found so many new parts of myself that I just buried under work and existence, all of that. And I got a chance to be authentic. And I think that is something that I now take into my job when I work with principals who've just been conditioned to behave a certain way because of the education system that they are a part of. And sometimes I just have conversations with my principals which end with them saying that, okay, maybe we could not do data analysis, but thank you for being so kind to me. And I think that was the victory that I found through this work. So yeah, that was not brief, but it was an answer. Thank you, Shreya.
I think that was a very good answer. It also gives us a lot of insight into what happened. So I think you did a good job. Don't worry about it. I think we've also spoken about what's happening in Palestine, Sudan, and Congo. The anti-caste, queer-mistic, Islamo-mistic practices and behaviors that may be perpetuated in our own regions. And how do we practice self-soothing self-care when we know that our community is going through this, or when a community is facing injustice when they have been historically oppressed? So, how do we talk about collective action? How do we talk about community organizing? How do we speak about mutual aid? And also be true to ourselves and understand our positionalities. I think, in fact, one cohort also had a session on how do we decolonize mental health, which was a peer-led session, something we also have in the fellowships, right? Where the team is not involved, One Future Collective team is not involved, but everyone from the cohort, all the fellows come in together, and there is cross-learning happening. There's peer learning, peer tutoring, which is also, I think, a very great element of it. Also, keeping a note of the time, I want to ask one last question. Shefali, this is directed towards you. Why do you think anyone who is above 18 years of age and is a South Asian should apply to the fellowship? What would you say to them?
I just wanted to add that I think it's so nice that the fellowship has adapted to the need of the hour, and I think that really plays well into the fellowship's founding pillars, is that it's flexible and it adapts to the community that it needs to adapt to. So I really appreciate that, because in an institution where I am, I've struggled to have space to talk about those things, and so I really appreciate that OFC is doing that. I think apply because One Future Fellowship is a place where we're allowed to make mistakes and figure out what feminism and feminist advocacy means for us. There's a theoretical base, there's history from a lot of perspectives, and I'll be honest, as like a 21-year-old who is working in the field and in Gujarat and with local communities and unable to kind of place myself in the development sector, the fellowship was a place where I figured out how I would want to conduct myself in non-traditional spaces. And like I'll be honest, I'm still not completely sure where I am. I don't know how I'm going to conduct myself in the feminist social justice space, but I know that I have like a starting point, at least for like my personal leadership journey. One other thing that I think is important to know when we are considering applying for the fellowship is the idea of a capstone. So for me, the support that I got from the fellowship was really helpful, because before this, I'd never been able to have the space to do feminist research, because it's a big thing. Data on gender basis is not existent. And so the fact that I was allowed to do that became the theory for what I'm doing today. I'm applying feminist approaches to econometrics, which is not something that I ever thought was possible before the fellowship. So I would say the fellowship has room to learn. There is no judgment and there is no fear. Like today I've met friends and made like friends across time zones, across countries. And there's still the people that I fall back on, like both Devika and Pooja mentioned, to become my sounding boards. So apply for the One Future Fellowship because there's a community that's waiting for you, and the community that will always show up when they need to for the members. And I don't think we know what we bring to the table until we join it. So join the table.
Thank you, Shefali, and thank you everyone for being here. I hope that this gives everyone an insight of what it means to be a One Future Fellow. I do want to say that the One Future Fellowship next cycle, which is 2024 to 25, is open to women, queer folks, transgender, non-conforming, and non-binary South Asian folks who are of 18 plus years of age. We also have an eligibility form. You can try out the quiz and see if you are someone who's eligible for the fellowship and can apply. You'll find the form in the caption. This year, we also want to significantly scale the fellowship by broadening the fellowship's geographic focus and admitting a larger class of fellows. So the fellowship will be administered as a single cohort with 100 participants in a live learning session. This will be followed by 2 hours of practical theory and activity assessment in smaller cohorts of 25 fellows each. In addition to 2 virtual sections, we will conduct 2 hybrid sections in Bangalore and Mumbai respectively. The fee for this program is 30,000 INR, Indian rupees, and we also have financial aid options available, which means that should you be selected for the fellowship, finances will not be an issue for you to continue. The program runs from May 4th to December 15th of 2024. And for any young feminist leaders or anyone who hasn't yet had the opportunity to explore the themes of social justice, but if you are still keen to apply, we will be offering a pre-course on Introduction to Social Justice and Feminist Leadership to all selected participants at no cost. We hope that this enables all of the participants to enter the fellowship with a base knowledge of existing issues. And the selection process looks like this. You can submit your applications by February 29th. And on a rolling basis, you'll hear back from us for phase 2 with an assignment, phase 3 as one-on-one interviews, and lastly, a group discussion. All long-listed applicants shall hear back from us by April 10th. If you have any further queries, we'd love to address them. You can write to us at fellowship@onefuturecollective.org, which can also be found in the caption. Again, thank you for your time to all of our speakers and everyone who's engaging with us in this video. We do hope that you apply and join us in this transformative journey of feminist leadership. Thank you so much.